Hello, everyone. I believe we're live. My name is Shari Lapena, and I'm the internationally best-selling author of several thrillers, including The Couple Next Door and my latest, Not a Happy Family. But more importantly, I'm a huge Richard Osman fan, and I'm here today to interview Richard Osman about his latest book, The Bullet That Missed, which is having its North American launch today. So welcome, Richard. Richard is an author, producer, and television presenter. Both his first novel, The Thursday Murder Club, and his second, The Man Who Died Twice, were both number 1 million copy international bestsellers, as well as New York Times bestsellers. And his third book, The Bullet That Missed, is sure to be at least as successful, if not more. He lives in London, and let's welcome Richard Osman.
Hey,
Hi,
Shari,
Richard. I'm good, thank you. It's good to talk to you again. And I have to say, I love this book. I think it's my favorite of the three, and I think they're just getting better.
That's so kind of you. You know, I'm a huge fan of yours as well. But it's interesting, isn't it, when you've written a couple of books before, and you sort of think, oh, this is the one where the magic runs out. This is the one where I found out, where finally everyone goes, oh, I really like the other two, but this one,
I know.
so far that hasn't happened yet. So I'm thrilled with the response to this one.
Well, I mean, the whole series of the Thursday Murder Club books has been phenomenally successful worldwide. And, they're just crushing the bestseller list. The rest of us are just sort of standing back and wondering, how does he do it?
Well, listen, you don't do too badly for yourself.
No.
is the truth. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Is crime fiction has really taken over in the last 5 years or so. There's such huge brands around the world that are crime fiction brands in the US, in the UK, Australia, all over the place, Japan. People are loving reading crime fiction, and crime fiction of all sorts of different types. Your books are very different to mine. I mean, they share certain sensibilities. They're sort of about the real world, and they're about a kind of a small town essentially, but they have very different feels. And then you get people who write incredibly gory books and serial killer books, and everywhere in the world, these things seem to be doing well. And I just, I've always loved and read crime fiction, and so I sort of thought I'll write a book that I enjoy, and which is what I did. And yeah, it's been, I would have to say, more of a surprise to me than anyone that as you say, they've crushed the bestseller lists, because I mean, I like them, and I'm really proud of them, and I love them, and I love my characters, but you never know when they're going to chime with other people, do you?
Exactly. You don't know until they're out there. That's why it's so nerve-wracking to be an author. But what is it, do you think, that has resonated so much with people with the Thursday Murder Club books? I mean, they're so loved all over the world. And I mean, I know crime fiction is big and so on, but these particular books have really struck a chord with people. And what do you think it is? Do you think it's got something to do with the lightness, or do we need that feel good stuff right now because of the way the world is going with the wars and all these awful things happening? Or are they just like super good reads? What do you think? What do you think makes them so appealing?
I mean, it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to work out. I think it comes down to characters, is the truth. I think it comes down to characters you care about and you love, and you want to spend time with. And in my case, I'm very blessed with having characters, all of whom are in their 70s, and all of whom sort of act slightly against type, and all of whom are part of a gang. And I think we love underdogs, which the four of them in different ways are. Elizabeth, perhaps less so, if you can ever describe an ex-spy as an underdog. We love underdogs, but we love gangs, and we love unlikely friendships. And so I think the combination of the things where the four of them disagree with each other about an awful lot, but they've all got each other's backs at all times. And I think you're right. We do live in a world. I don't think we do live in a world that's divided, but I think we live in a world where we're told we're divided, definitely. And I think that is quite upsetting for people. I think to constantly be told that everyone's disagreeing with you and you're disagreeing with everyone. I think it's nice sometimes to have a book that says, here's a group of very different people who probably have very different opinions about things, but they have a common cause and they have a common goal, and there is more that unites us than divides us. And so I think that's super useful. I think that's a kind of a rallying cry wherever you are in the world that says, you know, we can all be friends. So you have that, you have the classic structure of a crime novel, which people have loved, you know, for 150, 200 years. So you know that's on board. And I think they make people laugh. I think that they have a sort of British sense of humour. I don't set out particularly to write funny books, but these characters make me laugh a lot. You know,
Oh, they make me laugh a lot. They're very, very funny books, very clever and funny.
But like, again, I never try to. But you know, in the classic sort of trope of in a crime book, you know, I'll send someone in with a gun, and the reaction of these four characters to someone with a gun is just makes me laugh. You know, it makes me laugh the way they, in their different ways, they would deal with that. So as a writer, it's a gift to have this group of characters, all of whom can do something different. And I can write a chapter from any of their perspectives, and you know it's going to be a slightly different chapter. It's going to be a slightly different take on the story. And then when you put them together, I'm just writing the fourth one now. And there's a scene, they're all having lunch together in the very first scene. And I just think, oh my God, I've missed hanging out with you guys. I've missed having lunch with you four, because it's just, all I need is for one of them to say something. And then the reactions are just, I just get the reactions from all of them.
Yeah. I think as a reader, it's the same. We can't wait to see them again, because it's like joining old friends, and they're so enjoyable. And I think really what is so appealing about them, it is the characters and the way they have each other's backs, and the way they work as a team, and how they're so different. And as you say, they work against type. So none of them are what you expect ever, but we've come to get to know them. And it's like, not like family, but they're like friends for us to read about. And we want to see what the next adventure is going to be.
I think when you're reading, if you're thinking, I would like to spend time with these people, or if I was in trouble, I'd like these people on my side, then that's a pretty good starting point. Or I'd like to live where these people live, which a lot of people would.
Which is, I mean, it's certainly a different take on an old folks community, where they, you know, they set out to solve crimes rather than, you know, bingo.
Exactly that. And it's a real place. You know, this is the place where my mum lives. It's based on a real community. You know, it's based on the spirit of this place. I briefly saw someone on the chat before we started, everyone's from America, but I saw someone from Sussex, England, which is where my mum's real community is. That's where she lives. And you know, you can't help go there even for an hour and not to sort of sit and laugh and have fun with people. You know, they start drinking very early in the day. You know, they'll start drinking at like 11:30. They'll start drinking before midday. There's always politics. You know, there's always arguments. You know, there's always gossip, and that, of course, that's what we love when we're in our 20s, and it's what we love when we're in our 30s, and it's what we love in our 40s. And
it's the camaraderie.
No, that's what we're going to love forever, right?
So I want to know what the reaction is to you when you go to your mom's old folks community now, having written all of this. How do they react when you come over?
I mean, originally I had to, in the books, I set the village in Kent because they all said at the time, if this is successful, we don't want people to know where we are. And I told them, I said, this won't be successful, don't worry. But they were right about that. But now, yeah, they very, very much embrace it. We were down there last week. The biggest news program in the country, the News at 10 on the BBC, literally went down there and filmed a report for my publication day over here. So they did a thing about the book coming out. And then they said, look, this is the retirement community that this book is based on. So they came down to visit everyone. They filmed a line dancing class. They filmed them playing crown green bowls. And firstly, they love it. But secondly, they are constantly pitching me plots now that they know it's a hit. So there's two of them. And believe it or not, they're called Peggy and Sue. These two of my mum's friends, Peggy and Sue. And Sue says to me, there's a concert hall in this community. There's a concert hall which belonged to the old nunnery, which is in the middle of the complex. And Sue was saying, oh, they want to convert it into more flats. They want to convert it into more properties for people. And you know, there's the whole place is up in arms, and there's meetings about it. And you know, she's saying perhaps this could be a plot in one of your books. And I was sort of nodding, and I clearly wasn't nodding enthusiastically enough, because then Peggy came in and said, just so you know, in that concert hall, there's a balcony and you could push someone off that and kill them. And I thought, oh, and suddenly I go, oh, there's it. Now there's a story. Now you can do it. But yeah, they take it in exactly the right spirit. I think they're happy to be the heroes of the story without being patronized, without being patted on the head and said, you know, haven't you done well for 80 years old? I think they're happy to be shown with all their flaws, but also with you know, all the mischief and adventure that they still have in their hearts.
I would think so, especially when older people tend to be, you know, ignored, forgotten, written off. You know, and older people, they all have a story. They're all fully realized
you know
people.
what, that's the fascinating thing around the world, because some cultures we think of as looking after older people much better. Some cultures, you know, you stay in the family group much longer. But whoever I talk to, whether it's Japan, China, Italy, Spain, Australia, they all say the same things, which is we write people off after 70. They become invisible in our culture after 70. And I thought that was quite, I knew it happened in the UK. I know it happens in America.
It happens here.
I get that. So I was sort of fairly confident that that would resonate with people. But the fact that everywhere in the world, everyone is saying the same thing. They're all saying, what do we do about older people? What do we do about loneliness in older people? What do we do about shutting them away and ignoring them? And, you know, I know you've got honest presidents in the United States, but him aside, Biden aside, you know, there's a whole generation who are written off probably when they're at their wisest and kindest and when their hearts are fullest. And they understand a bit more about frailty and grief and the human condition. You know, suddenly we go, oh, we don't need you, because we need 25-year-old Instagrammers. That's all. That's all we need. That's all we need. And it's amazing that that's universal.
Well, I think it's lovely the way your books have given so much life to this age group. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. And but it's fascinating to even be talking about it, isn't it? I mean, that's when I started writing the first one. I realized very quickly that I was sort of having my cake and eating it, because I was kind of casting this light on a group of people who are not often cast as heroes, but also they're great detectives and they're great. You know, it just, they've got all the skills I need. So it's not like I was going, look, we all know there's a problem with older people, but come bear with them. You know, I was literally just thinking, they're invisible, but they absolutely shouldn't. You know, I had this just ready-made carpet, this ready-made sort of field of flowers in front of me, which is this group of people with different skills who were being ignored. And you think, well, this is great, because you know, what a train set I have to play with in these books.
So tell us a little bit. I mean, I don't have a lot of time here, but do your characters, I mean, obviously they feel very real to you. They feel very real to me, and I'm sure to all of the readers. Do they talk to you when you're writing? Like I imagine, how do you write? Because I imagine you're writing something, and I can just see Elizabeth over your shoulder leaning in and going, "No, we're not doing it that way," or Joyce saying, "Are you sure?"
Yeah, I mean,
so what's your writing process? Are you sitting there? Do you know what you're going to say, and you're not listening to them, or are they over your shoulders telling you what to do?
I listen 100% of the time when I'm writing. I roughly know where the book is going, where each book is going. So I roughly know where I'm finishing. And more importantly, I try and write a scene a day, and I know where the scene is going. Okay, I know how I want the story to have changed by the end of the scene. Right? I know what revelation to happen, or so I know the thing that I want to change the story, which is always a good way of thinking of when you're writing a book. Is, you know, if you've got, my chapters tend to be about 1,000, 1,500 words. If each 1,000 to 1,500 words, something happens that fundamentally changes the story, then you've got a fairly compelling read. So anyway, I'll sit down. I know I'm writing that chapter today. I know the one I'm writing, and I know where I'm beginning. Usually, I definitely know where I'm ending. And then, yeah, the four of them, or whoever is, you know, Bogdan's taking part in the story, or you know, which he does in this new book, or some of the new characters. They sort of take it over from me. So I'll say, look, I've got this, you've seen this scene before. This is two cops in a police station, and they're working out how someone could have, you know, made their escape. Okay, that's where we are. And at the end, I need to give over this one piece of information, right? That's where we are. But then, you know, I've got Donna and Chris, and they're talking about something else entirely, you know, because other stuff is going on in their lives, you know, and that's sort of a fun way to write a scene, knowing that I've got to go somewhere, but the characters sort of go, wait a minute. I know where you want to head, but we've got a couple of other things we want to talk about first. And
Yes.
all of the characters do that. All of the gang. If I know where I'm heading in a scene, and there'd be a very quick straight line to get to where I'm heading. I mean, I could get there pretty swiftly, but the four of
But
them are
it's the
like
circumlocutions that are so fun, you know.
not so fast. Like there's a tiny little thing I wanted to get across in a scene, and so there's a scene in this new book, in The Bullet That Missed, with Ron, and Ron is persuaded to have a massage, right? Like a proper kind of in a spa, kind of a proper big full on, and he's never had one before. And that was a scene. I went for a massage with my partner when we were in Spain, and I don't really do massages either. Right? I was born in 1970. I'm not. That's not my world. Okay, so I've never really done it. But she said we're going to have this couples massage, so we did. So I'm having this massage, and I'm aware it's going to be about 45 minutes or something, and I'm aware I've got to relax. I'm thinking, oh my God, you've got to relax, which is difficult. And I think, what are you going to think about? And then what I thought about was Ron. And I thought about Ron having a massage for the first time. And I thought about what would he be thinking about. And of course, firstly, I know it's going to be fun if Ron is having this massage, because I know how I'm feeling, you know, and I've been at the slight awkwardness, and I know I can heighten it for Ron. But I also know that he's got to start thinking about something. And as you know, in a book, it's very helpful when one of your characters has a bit of time to ponder, because it allows you to, you know, catch up with a bit of the plot or whatever it is, or seed a bit of extra information. So I thought, well, great, I'm going to have a scene, and the scene is about how awkward he's finding the massage. Of course, that's what the scene is about. But of course, it isn't about that. It's there's bits of information I want to get across there as well. So that's the kind of perfect thing where I know what I want to do, but your characters go, I tell you the way to do this. Put me in a massage. You know, just do that for me. And that's the way I tend to write, which is, what piece of information do I need to get across? What's an interesting, unusual way of presenting that information, essentially.
So with your books, it's always about the fun along the way. You know, it's just so fun, all of it, every page.
But that's the thing. You know, you make a contract with the reader. You make much more of a contract with the reader, because you're all about the solution. So you've got a brilliant contract with the readers. You always set up sort of a seemingly impossible thing, and in the end, you know, you're going to have satisfyingly sorted it out and solved it. And so you really can go anywhere. And suddenly we think, oh, is this about the relationship between these two? Is it about those two? Because you can sort of tread any path you want, because you know where you're going. And I tend to have slightly more opaque things that have happened in my book. It tends to be 2 or 3 different things have happened, and they all come together. You know, but you and like Harlan Coben, I love that thing of just saying, here's an unknowable mystery, and by the end you think, I'm going to know what that mystery is. But you're right, if you've got that, if you have that structure, it's up to you where you go, because you know where you're going to end up, and you know it's going to take 90,000 words or 100,000 words, whatever it takes, and you know that there's going to be lots of paths you take, but you know where you're headed. And that's why I love crime fiction, because it's all very, you know, literary fiction, whether you sort of explore people's lives, is all well and good, and you know, there's some brilliant bits of it, but you do think, when you're given a constraint, which we set ourselves a constraint in crime writing, which is, no, there's a problem, and I'm going to solve the problem. I mean, it's not much of a constraint, but it's a constraint. And I think that brings out, that's why crime writing is so wonderful, because everyone approaches it from a different angle. And that's why you can have 10 favorite crime writers, because it's, you know, that everyone's just taking a different path.
No, there's so much you can do in crime fiction, but the one thing you can't do is bore your reader.
Oh, I mean, you
cannot bore your reader.
You can't bore your reader or cheat your reader.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, those are the 2 absolute no-nos, and I try and keep them in mind throughout. You've got, you know, the solution has got to be there. You know, you've got to have given them every single fact. So at the end, when you tell them, they just go, Shari told me that. She literally told me that on page 27, and I thought she was talking about something else, but she said that. And that's
you got to be sly.
Yep.
Sly, but not unfair. Yes. I have to start going to questions, but there are a couple things I really want to ask you before we go to the questions.
I can give shorter answers, Shari.
Okay. Do you have and maybe you don't want to answer this, but do you have a predetermined number of books in this series, like a definite arc that you foresee, or do you know how it's going to end? I mean, they are older people,
They
or
are older.
are you just gonna keep on going, doing your books, or have you thought about who's going to die first and how? And of course, you don't want to
Shari,
share
how
that with
dare
us,
you?
but I'm just wondering, do you have an arc? Do you see
Yeah,
a
I
or
have
not?
an initial arc of 4 books, but that's not going to
Oh,
be
you
the end of it.
do? Oh,
Yeah,
that can't be the end of it. No,
no,
you're
that's
having
not
too much
the end of it.
fun.
But the first 4 are going to be sort of as a piece because they all start very soon after the previous one ends, and the
Yeah,
story sort of is a continuation. You get new mysteries, but it's sort of a continuation.
yeah.
And so the end of the 4th one, I'm going to give them a break of a couple of months at least. I can't, as you
Okay.
say, I can't give them too long
No, no.
for chronological reasons.
Yeah,
So I've got an arc of 4, but I've just signed up to do 2 more.
good.
But also I'm going to do a new series as well. So there's going to be more Thursday Murder Club books, but I'm also going to write a new series. So I'm going to do these 4. I'm going to write one of the new series and then back to Thursday Murder Club. That's the plan. That's the
Ooh,
plan.
can you tell us about this new series? Is it something
Yeah,
different from
it's been
a
tomorrow, I think actually. So I'll give you. I can give
yes,
Barnes and Noble an exclusive, can't I? No one.
yeah,
No one wants.
absolutely. Come
No one.
on, give us an
No
exclusive.
one's going to tell. No, I always wanted to write a more traditional. I love writing these books,
Yeah,
but I don't want them to become Murder She Wrote and suddenly that a corpse turns up every week, and that
yeah.
So I wanted to write something where I've got actual detectives. So I want something where I can start a book with someone sitting in an office, someone knocking on the door and saying, "Here's
Okay.
the plot to this book," which is something I'm not able to do with the Thursday Murder Club. I can do there's a million other things I can do with the Thursday Murder Club, which I love, and that's why I'll continue doing it. But I like the idea of having a detective, a Poirot who people bring cases to. So I've got this idea. It's going to have a duo at the middle of it, a father-in-law and a daughter-in-law, who are very, very ill-matched. You'll be shocked to learn. Who have very, very different skills. Who have a very interesting relationship. One is very go-getting, and one is very. One doesn't really like traveling, but essentially they sort of are forced to jet set around the world solving crimes.
Oh,
One
I
of them
like
loves
it.
it, and one of them is very reluctant. But it's a nice.
Complaining all the time. Yeah.
That father-in-law daughter-in-law relationship is nice, and real detectives who people
And
can
is it
hire.
comedic or is it a bit darker?
Bear in mind, Shari, that when I was writing Thursday Murder Club, I didn't think it was comedic. So
Oh,
that's
it's
what you.
very comedic. I
So
giggle all the way through.
my judgment is not all it might be. I think it's impossible for me to write something that is non-comedic. I think it's impossible because I like to point out absurdities. But yeah, I want it to have proper. I want it to be globe-trotting and jet-setting and all that stuff. But I need it to be again everything. Whatever idea you ever have, it has to be about the characters, and I've got that pair in the middle of it. Don't tell anyone this. Anyone who's watching. This is
No, it's an
just
exclusive. We have
between
hundreds of
us.
people here, but you can't say anything till what? Tomorrow, you said?
I think
When are you
tomorrow
announcing it?
we're
Tomorrow?
announcing. Yeah, so we're going to announce there'll be 2 more Thursday Murder Club books, which are 5 and 6, and then 2 of this series, which currently doesn't have a title. I do sort of have a title, but it's not an official one. But yeah, I want it to feel like it's part of the same universe. I want to feel like at some point they could bump into Joyce, at an airport coffee shop.
Oh, that would be great. I love that sort of thing.
So it won't be kind of like some kind of sci-fi space age, RoboCop type thing.
Yeah.
It'll be about real people facing extraordinary odds, basically.
Yeah. I love Joyce. I have to say I love
Yeah.
Joyce. Can you say who your favorite character is, or do you
No,
love them all equally like children?
I think that they're all very much part of me. I love writing Joyce. She's very easy for me to write. I think she, that's where my head is at almost all the time, is where
really?
Joyce is. But there's time, Ron reminds me of my grandfather. Ibrahim, I can really sort of sink into myself sometimes and seek solace in lists and things. And so if I'm feeling in that mood, I'll write Ibrahim because I find that I like how it's important to him to have everything in order. He's very empathetic and emotional, but things get too much for him. So sometimes he just needs to go, no, I need something to focus on. And Elizabeth is the one who's least like me, but I just love her because she doesn't give a toss in a way that I would love to not give a toss sometimes. She will she'll ride roughshod over people in a way that sometimes I think, oh, I wish I could do that. And I'm not able to.
your characters are just so amazing. I mean, Elizabeth's like literally killed people.
Yeah, I know, I know.
They're just so fascinating. I have to say, in this book, the latest one, I just love the KGB Colonel Victor. Oh, so that when you bring in his character, it's just fantastic. And I don't want to give anything away, but I hope the Bogdan thing works out with,
Do you know what? Isn't it funny? I'm the author, so it's up to me. But Shari, I hope it does too.
And I know that you don't know if it's going to work out, but it would be nice.
Yeah,
I
hope it will too. I think there's one of my favorite Thursday Murder Club moments is in this book when he's getting out of a car with Donna at the retirement village and says something to her, which is one of my favorite bits of the whole Thursday Murder Club universe, as someone described it to me the other day.
Yeah. Okay, we have to move to these questions. I had a bunch of questions I wanted to ask you. I'm not going to be able to ask you. I'm just going to ask you this one. Do you have a motto, a favorite motto or saying that you stand by? I have two. I have two. So I just was wondering, they're very good for writers.
On my wall behind, I don't know if you can see it. Maybe it's on the other side. There's a. No. It says it's the same as Elvis's motto, really, which is TCB, which just means take care of business. Which means whatever the muse is, however much you might read someone saying how brilliant you are, whatever the thing is, get upstairs and write. Just do it. Do the work. Take care of business.
Good. You've heard it from Richard and Elvis here today, guys.
But it's true, isn't it? As anyone who's an author, anyone who's writing now, anyone who's sitting at home writing, the one thing that's always left out is hard work.
Yeah, I mean, my mottos are: Rome wasn't built in a day. You have to keep at it, and there's more than one way to skin a cat. You just got to be persistent.
And someone once told me when I was writing the first one, which was very useful. Someone said, "Get it done, then get it good." Get it finished. If it's finished, then you can work on it. Until it's finished, it's like what is it? It's in the bottom of a drawer, and it's shaming you by being there. Get it finished, and it'll be terrible. That's fine, but it's done, and so you can make it good.
And I always tell people, you learn more from finishing a book, no matter how bad it is. You learn about finishing a book, all the stuff about structure. You can't learn if you never finish it.
100%. And you can reverse engineer all sorts of stuff. And don't forget, every book you've ever read and admired, that was not the first draft.
Yeah.
Maybe
Jane Austen. I think Jane Austen wrote. Yeah. If you go to the manuscript museum,
she could have used a few revisions.
In today's market, yes. But, okay, I have a list of questions that readers sent in earlier today, so I need to get to these. I can't get to all of them because we don't have enough time, but I'm going to choose a few. How did you decide on the title for this book?
That's a really good question, because I think titles are really big deal.
They're important and they're hard.
Yeah, and in marketing, so I think you hear the title, The Thursday Murder Club, and you already have quite an idea about what sort of book it's going to be. It's going to be about murder for sure, but it's going to have something a bit quirky about it, and it's going to be a gang, and it tells you all of those things in 4 words. And honestly, the truth was, it was when I was down at my mum's retirement community, and they have art history classes on a Tuesday and knit and natter on a Wednesday, so they have these clubs. And those 3 words just formed together in my head: Thursday Murder Club. I like the internal rhyme of Thursday and murder, so it flowed. And I've had a career, lifetime in television, coming up with TV with titles and stuff. And sometimes you just think, yeah, that's a good title. And when I thought Thursday Murder Club, I knew that I liked the idea already. But as soon as I had that name, the Thursday Murder Club, I just thought, I never understand people who do sort of enigmatic book titles, because when you walk into a Barnes and Noble, there's a lot of books on those tables. Right? There's a lot of books on the shelves, and if you've got a slightly kind of muddy front cover and you've got a title that's something like Enigma, you think, I don't know what this book is. I don't know what. Whereas if you walk in and it's got a very clear cover and this is the Thursday Murder Club, you might go, all I need is 2 seconds of your attention, right? 2 seconds, and then just read the back, and you think, then you're in. And so a good title is great. I think that the bullet that missed I had before I had the entire plot is the truth. So it sort of had something to do with the plot, but I liked it so much, I slightly tweaked the plot to fit it even better. And
So
the
do you
manager,
choose all your titles? You personally choose all your titles?
that was my fiance Ingrid came up with the bullet that missed.
Okay.
I was going to call it the third bullet originally, which did fit the plot.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, but the bullet that missed was a much better title, and so it only took one tiny tweak actually, and it was absolutely fine. But yeah, I want a title where people go, oh, well, that's interesting. You know, like The Couple Next Door is a great title because you go, I know it. Listen, I know it's a crime book, so I know it's not going to be The Couple Next Door. They're nice. Oh, let's invite them around. Right, this something really bad is going to happen with The Couple Next Door. Right?
That's the only title I ever came up with. The rest of it's usually my marketing team. But that one I came up with.
They should trust you.
Well, no, I'm not so good at coming up with them anymore. But anyway,
right?
Somebody wants to know what your writing schedule is like. You mentioned to me earlier that you've stopped working in TV just recently to devote more time to writing.
I do various quiz shows over here. I just gave up one of them, which has really freed up a lot of time. I try and I think about it like going to the gym, which is you like a little and regular. You know, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
I try and write a chapter a day. That's the way I love to write because it really is kind of goal oriented. You know, it means you have quite short chapters, which I personally, as a reader, I love.
Me too. I do the same thing because I love them.
Yeah, because
then readers love them.
Yeah, the first thing I do when I get a book, I look at how long it is to the end of the chapter, and if it's 40 pages, I'm a bit kind of, oh no.
I know, I'm the same.
But
we're all too busy these days.
So I try and do that. Try and do 1,000 to 1,500 words a day. It's about 2 hours, but solid 2 hours. Like door shut, internet off, no distractions at all, no going up to make a cup of tea. Just non-stop inside the brain with the characters on the page. And I don't go back and revise it particularly. If I've written it very quickly, which sometimes I do, I'll sit and revise it. But if I've done my 2 hours, 2 hours 15, 2.5 hours, if it's gone on a bit longer, I tend to just leave that to the second draft. I just get through. I usually know roughly what my next 5 chapters are going to be. So I'll write down. I don't have any charts on the wall or anything like that. I'll write down a list of what I think the next scene is going to be. And I got the next 5. And sometimes, like, you write the third one and something changes so much, you think, okay, actually, the next 5 chapters are going to be something slightly different. But I try and just think, like today, like I know the chapter that I'm writing tomorrow in the new book, so I know what that chapter is. I know whose perspective it's from. I'm sort of looking forward to doing it, but I won't give it a second thought until I get up there.
And so your writing schedule. So it sounds like you write probably in the mornings, and then how much of your or does it?
I write
change?
Whenever is the truth.
Whenever.
Rarely in the mornings because I can usually find an excuse not to. So sometimes it slips later and later because I'll find any excuse not to do it. But yeah, I've never found a particular time of day that works for me. I know some writers like to get up at 6:30 and write, and I know people who've got kids or they're caring for people. Sometimes you have to get up early and do it. So for me, yeah, it's whenever I've got those 2 hours. If I do it in the morning, I feel so happy. I feel so so you just
got the day off.
I've done it exactly. And the occasion, like today, for example, I've had various bits and bobs I haven't written, and I know I sort of feel bad because I could have done, but I had like little bitty bits of things to do here and there. So I haven't written, so I'm feeling bad.
Well, I imagine with your success, an awful lot of your day is spent on administrative stuff surrounding that success. Signing books and speaking engagements and planning trips and all that stuff. So that, don't you find that takes up an enormous amount of a writer's time?
Yeah, around publication.
Yeah.
It really does. So the last couple of weeks have been, I was talking to my agent yesterday, funnily enough, and they did say, because with all the wood in the world, people just say, oh, could you just do one more thing? Oh, it's just one other little thing we could do, or could you pop in and do that? All of which is every bit of it is reasonable, and I love to do. It's important. Selling to me is very, very important, and so I say yes to most things. But you do say, I haven't written for 4 days. I haven't written the book, and the book is the thing. And so eventually I've had to say, let's do, like, if Barnes and Noble and Shari want me to do an event, we'll do that. I'm not sure I have to do this other interview that's been set up. Like, much as I would love to, I just think maybe that's writing time. So I think you have to kind of go, which are the ones that are important to you? Who are the people who've always supported you? Who are the what's what's the quality thing to do? And then you have to sometimes just go, I might have to say no to a few things. I hate saying no to people.
Because the writing has to come first. And don't you find that the momentum, when you're writing a story and you write every day, that momentum carries you through. If you stop for a week, it stops you. But the momentum, you're carrying on, like the story.
The momentum, I think, is the thing where the story really changes, because you're so inside the story, and you're telling it at such pace that actually something will happen. You'll immediately go, whoa, that's taking me by surprise. And you think, right, it's taking me by surprise, so I'm having that, I'm keeping that, because if it's taking me by surprise, it'll take everyone. But you're right, when you start again, you're just like, oh no, let's plod through the next couple of scenes. And yet you're not in that place where you can really fly.
Yeah, I agree completely. Okay, I'm gonna just skip a few. Are the characters based on real people? And I want to know who does your mom play in the Thursday? Is your mom the basis of Joyce, or the base?
They are not especially based on real people. I mean, Joyce would be closest to my mum. My mum is a teacher rather than a nurse, and my mum is the sort of quite a quiet type who tends to be able to get her own way amongst more domineering personalities. So she has that in common with Joyce. And occasionally when I go down and see her, she'll say something. It'll just be a form of words, and I just go, "Oh yeah, that's Joyce. I'll have that." And she sometimes sees me sort of just going. She goes, "Oh God, have I just said something you're going to write in a book?" And I go, "No." But there's sort of,
she has a roving eye, Joyce, for the good-looking fellow.
Yeah, but just sometimes it's a form of words where you just think, of course she would say something like that. That's beautiful. But no, I think they're the 4 quadrants of my own brain, to be honest.
Okay,
that feels like what they are, and I've given life to 4 different parts of my personality, and made them all be in their 70s and 80s.
What fun to have an Elizabeth as a quadrant in your brain. I'd love to have an MI5 agent in my brain.
Oh,
sadly,
amazing.
I don't.
Someone who can just, exactly. Someone with a gun and contacts.
A gun and contacts, exactly. Who is your favorite character, and the one whose dialogue and character insights you look forward to writing the most? You mentioned earlier you love to write Joyce.
Yeah, I do love to write Joyce, and insight is the thing, because it's fascinating that anything it's like therapy or something, which is you sort of never know your answer until you're asked a question, and in writing, you're constantly asking questions. You're constantly sort of questioning people's motivations. You're constantly putting them under pressure, and sometimes Elizabeth will do something or say something, Ron will do something or say something, and you think, oh my God, that's wise. That's good. I'll go, thanks, Ron. That's really something to live by. And, of course, it comes from your own head. But a lot of what's in our own head is subconscious, and it's just stuff we picked up over the years from people. And sometimes, until someone asks you the right question, you've never phrased the thing in a certain way. So Joyce, I find very easy to write. I sort of love writing Bogdan because he's very, very impassive.
Love Bogdan.
And he's very sort of omnicompetent. But also just deeply vulnerable as well. And he's the one where I just think, man, oh man, I really want to find out what's going on there, because I love, I love him, and I love his attitude to the world. Listen, he's done bad things in his time, but I love his sort of Buddha-like qualities.
All your characters are so likable, even the ones that do bad things. So Connie Johnson, the drug dealer, she's a psychopath. She kills people, but I still like her.
I mean, it's
I really like her.
I love Connie. And her,
I know, but she kills people.
I know.
But yeah, the way you've drawn her, I mean, she's just so likable.
But there's scenes in this new book where Connie, who from the man who died twice, is the drug dealer who they managed to entrap. So, but she signs up with Ibrahim for therapy. So essentially, Ibrahim visits her in prison, and they have therapy sessions filled with clues and all sorts of things as well. But I love writing them because firstly, she needs therapy. She needs a lot of work. She's incredibly bright, but there's absolutely been kind of unchecked throughout her whole life. But Ibrahim, like all therapists, he also needs therapy.
That's why they go into it.
Yeah, exactly. He needs somebody who presents him with something, and I've got some interesting stuff for Ibrahim in the next book, funnily enough. And I'm hoping that Connie, there's a bit of the plot in the next one where Connie could be very useful. So I think I'm going to continue that double act.
Yeah, That sounds very interesting. Um, is there going to be a screenplay, like a TV show or a movie in the works for the series?
Yeah, so Spielberg's company Amblin have got the rights and have been working on it for the last 18 months or so.
Oh,
As with all film, I'm sure you've been adapted a number of times, and it takes forever.
it
I get
does
that.
take forever.
And
Is
so
this going
my
to a TV series or film? Which is
film,
it?
although
Film.
now
Each one is a
you know,
film?
since I sold the rights, of course, the entire world of commercial cinema has completely collapsed. So
Yeah.
who knows if it'll end up on a streamer? But yeah, the idea is a feature film.
Okay.
And hopefully next year as well. Hopefully they're filming, but I leave them to it. They're the experts in that sort of thing, and I'd rather be writing the next book than doing the very thankless task of writing a screenplay.
Yeah, I agree. That's a whole other art, isn't it? And who's got time
Yeah,
writing a book a year and also learn how to do a
yeah.
screenplay? I have a question. Who do you think would be good? I mean, I imagine a number of older actors would be screaming for these parts. Has there been any ideas bandied about who they might be?
Yeah,
Or
I
can
mean,
you talk about
lots.
it?
It's a real. Over here, people endlessly like a party game of working out who the
Yeah,
four actors would be,
yeah,
because we've got so many amazing older actors here. I
yeah.
think the truth is you would have to age them down a tiny bit. You'd have to have actors aging up rather, because if you have a successful film, then of course you're going to have film 2 and film 3 and film 4. And while with the
Right.
books I can set them concurrently, with a film you're filming one every 2 years. And so
Yeah.
you have to have actors who are starting off at sort of 60 is the
Hmm.
truth. But there's there's so many of them. Meryl Streep, Gary Oldman. There's so many amazing people who would do well in these roles. But it'd be nice to have a couple of unknowns in there as well. It would be in the
Yeah,
spirit of the piece.
yeah, it kind of would, wouldn't it? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interest when those films
that'd be
come
nice.
out. What is your favorite line from The Bullet That Missed? Do you
Oh
have
my
a
goodness,
favorite
that's
line?
such a good question. And I thought about that today. I thought there's a line that I love. Gosh, what was it? There's loads that I love. There's loads in the Ron scene where he's having his massage that I love. And as I say, I love there's a line between Bogdan and Donna towards the end, which I won't say because it's sort of plot. And I absolutely love that. Oh my God, that's too good a question.
It is a
I'm
good
afraid.
question, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really. There's a scene actually. There's a line that I love. I think they put it on the back of the book, which is Elizabeth is placed in a place of peril and is far from home, and she needs Bogdan to come and help her. And Bogdan said, "Is there anything you need?" And she says, "Yes. Could you bring me a flask of tea and a gun?" And I
That's
thought, well,
right.
that's nice because she's cold, but at the same time, come on, she needs the tools of the trade.
For hot tea. Yep. Yep. Oh, that's funny. We didn't even talk about the plot of this book. I meant to ask you, but there hasn't been any time. I'll just quickly say it involves a 10-year-old cold case, the murder of a journalist, a
Yeah,
bunch of money laundering, and a KGB former colonel, and it's a blast. So that's all we can say
yeah.
about the plot right now. Here's a good question. What would you say to convince Elizabeth that you would be a valuable member of the Thursday Murder Club?
Oh my
So
goodness.
anybody wants to join, what would you say to Elizabeth?
But I mean, isn't that pressure?
That's a great
Can you imagine
question.
if you moved in there and you'd be thinking, oh, I'd love to be part. I mean, the truth is, Elizabeth is the only person you don't need to convince. If you convince Ron, Joyce, or Ibrahim, then you'd be in the club. Elizabeth wouldn't let you in. Elizabeth doesn't. She fears change. She needs.
Yes.
She's a soldier. She needs things being regimented. I think you would sidle in probably via Joyce, but I think maybe via Ibrahim. I think Ibrahim's the one that maybe could introduce there won't be a new member of the Thursday Murder Club, but if there were to be, I sort of feel like maybe Ibrahim would be the person to introduce them to the group, because Ibrahim doesn't take no for an answer in a very unusual way. Whereas I think Elizabeth would say no straight out. Joyce wouldn't like to ask. Ron, anyone he recommended would be inappropriate. But Ibrahim, I wonder, he might be the person just as like, I found this person who's got computer skills or something and might be useful to us.
Yeah. What genre do you read for enjoyment, and what are you reading now?
I read a lot of crime for enjoyment, is the truth, and that's why I write what I write, because you have to write what you love.
Same.
It's hard to write, right? Isn't it? I mean, it really takes a
Crime
lot of
fiction is very hard to write, and
Yeah.
you get tired of. Sometimes you hear literary types or anti-genre types saying, "Oh, it's just a crime novel." Well, I wrote literary before I wrote crime, and I'm telling you, thrillers are harder.
Yeah, well, I think they are.
They're
But also
harder
you
to
get
write.
be writers who occasionally, with a pseudonym, think I'm going to write an airport thriller, and you read it and think,
Yeah.
mate, you don't know how this is done.
Yeah.
So I read a lot of crime and different genres of crime. The book I'm reading at the moment, which I absolutely am loving, is Kate Atkinson's new book, which is
I'm getting that
Shrines of Gaiety. I love Kate Atkinson anyway, and
Yeah,
this
me
is
too.
set in 1920 Soho. That's London Soho, which is sort of vice centre of London, and about a woman who runs one of the big nightclubs there, and about her family, and about the cops trying to bring her down. All in that sort of post-war, post-First World War London, all in Kate Atkinson's amazing prose with all these incredible characters. So I'm reading that at the moment, absolutely loving it.
I know I'm getting that one sent to me soon. One of her books, A God in Ruins, is one of my favorite books of all time.
Well, Life After Life
so
is
good.
one of my favorite. I was on a book jury prize once when Life After Life was up there, and it was so clearly the best book. In the end, it didn't win, because I don't know if you'll have been on juries before, but somehow you sort of leave the room and you go, "What? How did that happen?" It's like there was a drive-by, and suddenly you walk out the room and the best book hasn't won. But there it is.
Yeah, I thought God in Ruins was even better than Life After Life, but that's just me. How influential was Agatha Christie's characters like Poirot and Miss Marple for you creating your characters?
It's a really good question. And listen, I mean, these are not conventional detectives, but neither is Miss Marple.
Yeah.
And Poirot, I would say, is a conventional detective in that he's a detective. He doesn't have conventional methods, but he's a detective. I honestly didn't really think about it. I thought about afterwards, when you're sort of selling the love that people have for Agatha Christie. Obviously, she's sort of in my genes and in my DNA, understanding the sort of things that she wrote. But I'm not going to write a kind of locked room mystery and everyone's in the library at the end, which a lot of Christie is. A lot of Christie isn't, but a lot is. So the fact that she wrote about things that look genteel on the surface was a big thing for me. And the fact that when I was at my mum's retirement village and seeing how beautiful it was and hearing how peaceful it was, the thing that went through my mind was this would be a great place for a murder. And that comes from Agatha Christie. 100%. That's that kind of knowing that when you're somewhere very British and peaceful, then there's trouble afoot. So that was very, very important to me. I think in the next book, that's when I've been thinking about, especially about Poirot, funnily enough, thinking about how unusual and unconventional those books are, but how they start with a detective who can be called upon to solve a crime. But yeah, you can't be a British writer or reader, crime writer or crime reader, and not have a great debt of thanks and inspiration to Agatha Christie.
And it's just occurred to me that she also gave credibility to older people, didn't she? I mean, Miss Marple was elderly.
Yeah, and listen,
and Poirot was no spring chicken either.
Yeah. And she was considered harmless. I mean, Poirot is considered harmless because he's eccentric and foreign, which especially when she was writing would sort of render you something kind of outside the norm and sort of someone who can be dismissed. And Miss Marple, was dismissed because she's the age that my characters are.
And yet Miss Marple, dismissed, but really sharp, able to solve anything,
amazing.
Right? Yeah. We're going to have to wrap up in a minute. I'm going to pick one more question. Here's a good one. Now that you've made up the decision to give up your TV commitments and become a full-time author, do you feel more pressure on your writing? I'll change that a bit. Now that you've become like a worldwide phenom, do you feel more pressure on your writing?
I think
you don't want to let your fans down.
You go through a lot of emotions, and you get a lot of feedback. There's a lot of data. If you're yourself, if you're number one in different countries and stuff, you know that you sort of think, hold on, this is not what I'm used to. But you very, very, very quickly work out that you only have one job, and that's sort of to block it out and to write the next one. I think that's the thing. So I think almost there's so much pressure, it sort of becomes ridiculous. and you kind of think, I can't take it on board. You know, I'm physically unable to take it on board. And so actually, it's sort of quite easy just to say, do you know what? I need to do my bit. I need to trust the process. I need to trust that these characters and these books have seen me through. And, you know, if I mess up, I mess up. But, you know, I just need to enjoy it in the same way I've enjoyed the other three. And hopefully that reads on the page.
Mm-hmm. Well, so far, absolutely. I mean, they're just getting better, I think. There's one question here that I thought was really cute and I wanted to ask it. If you were a contestant on Pointless, which Thursday Murder Club member would you want on your team?
I mean, Pointless has lots of kind of obscure categories. So Ron for sport, but for everything else, Ibrahim, I think, is the truth.
Yeah, he's the quiet intellectual, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the. I imagine he knows an awful lot of obscure things about an awful lot of obscure, categories.
And he would remember them. Yeah, he would be a good one.
Exactly.
All right, we are out of time. So I want to wrap up by thanking everyone for showing up today and listening to me talk to
thanks
Osman.
everyone.
It's been a lovely chat. I want to let you know that for those of you who bought a ticket that included a signed copy of The Bullet That Missed, the book will be delivered to you within 8 to 10 business days. Also, there are extra copies of The Bullet That Missed available 24/7 from bnn.com, and I've heard that some of those are signed as well because Richard has been very busy signing thousands of copies. And the book is also available at your local BNN store. So I think that's it, except I want to say, Richard, I will see you in person at Capital Crime in early October, and I believe Iceland War as well.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll get to meet lots of American readers and Canadian readers in person as well when I'm hoping to come over next year and come and see everybody, because I appreciate so much the support I get from American readers and the different readings of the book. And I love America and I love Americans, and I can't wait to be amongst you.
So are you coming to Canada then, do you think?
Well, if I'm in America, it'll be really
might as well.
Yeah, I love Canada. I love Vancouver and
well, if you come to Canada, let me know. And are you coming to the author festival or something, or you don't know yet?
I don't think so. I've bitten off more than I can chew here, Shari. So I'm sure I'll come over when I have some free time, and I'll come to as many places as I possibly can.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Richard.
Thank you so much, and thanks everyone for watching.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for coming, and I guess we'll say goodbye now.
Bye bye, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, Richard. Bye.